Okay.
Yep.
So our vision, which hopefully for those of you who've been with us at the school, it has not shifted significantly about really being the best big picture school we can be. We have a deep commitment to our anti-racist work, our project-based approach, and our big picture learning principles. We're going to continue to implement as many of the big picture distinguishers and our project-based approach as we can while we're working remotely or in a combination of a hybrid and virtual when we do come back to the building, whenever that is determined. So not much has shifted, though how it looks virtually clearly is going to be a little bit different than how it looks in person. When I started our PD in August with staff, we did some reflection as we head into year 10 and a decade of our big picture work. There were so many feelings that were coming up for me as a building leader that were very similar to that very first year when we started 10 years ago, of being nervous but excited, of not knowing what the year is going to be, to having this amazing team of like 10 or 11 people in 2011 to now I have a team of 40 plus people to work with who are just so amazing and creative and courageous with everything that's coming at us this year. But in a lot of ways this year and the unknown of what we started seems very familiar to what it was when we launched a brand new school 10 years ago. We are devoting a lot of time as a staff to really focusing on our school community and what it means to live these big picture principles of being a person-centered school, focused on relationships and knowing our students and our families. We know there's a lot of intentionality required to build a culture. And while I think we have a really strong school community and culture here that's really positive and healthy, it doesn't work all the time for all of our students. So we know we need to continue to make improvement on that. We're really committed to loving and caring and using that as our approach when we lead and teach, hopefully not just this year, but in all the years ahead. We know we'll need to continue to really dig deep into our creative problem solving as we tackle a lot of ongoing challenges hitting us with supporting virtual learning for our students, and to really be courageous in our work around combating systems of inequity. We have 3 specific foci for the year of forming this beloved, amazing community centered on care, creativity, and courage. First and foremost is that social emotional learning and well-being of our students and staff. Second is student-driven equitable learning, continued deeper focus on virtual PBL and virtual big picture learning, so project-based learning and big picture learning principles, and refining our equitable assessment and grading practices. So those will be what all of our PD will be focused on for the year, and what we'll be sharing out to parents and students and asking for feedback as the school year continues. That first area of the SEL work is being led by our PBIS team, our Positive Behavior and Interventions team, with Matt, Chloe, Amanda, Charmy, and Kevin Eni. Hopefully your students have seen our PROWL agreements, our positive relationships, ownership of learning, and leadership. Teachers use those to frame their virtual lessons. We've crafted that language to apply to a virtual setting and tweaked it a little bit from what it looked like in an in-person setting. The team will continue to plan and support our work around SEL, including a launch to a screener that's happening district-wide in early October. That will be used to gather some baseline data on how our kids are feeling about school in general, about specific classes, about assignments, about relationships with peers, relationships with teachers, anything that they're willing to share and bring to our attention, so that our teams, both our PBIS team and another team with our guidance system, can think about programming, whether it's through advisory, whether it's coming out of our counseling office, individual or group-based supports. We're going to use that screener to provide some data that'll guide that work for us. Matt's been taking the lead on our PMUs. They are now every other week on Wednesday during that community time. And that focus will be community building, affirmation, celebration, connections, fun events, any way that we can continue to build school spirit and community, and support our PMUs, even though we're not all together in the cafeteria. So activities will look different. The PBIS team is supporting that prowl, as I mentioned. Students get prowl slips. They're virtual, recognizing them for those positive relationships, ownership of learning, and leadership. We'll launch a Student of the Month virtually coming soon as well. So other ways to support and recognize students will be coming out of our PBIS team. Matt, in a few minutes, is going to give us an update about clubs and activities. We know that's incredibly important for student connection to each other outside of the classwork time. We want to support those social connections around things they're interested in. And even if they can't be together physically, having some of that social time still connected to school and their peers here is really important. And then in the next couple of weeks, Jamie and our counseling team will be launching a 6th grade lunch bunch. We want to help our 6th graders get connected to each other and to school. And it really can be for any of our new middle school students as well, who might be feeling that they don't know anyone yet, and they're not able to really connect with students as easily when it's not in person. So there'll be more events and activities that'll be coming out of our PBIS team and our guidance team to really support the social emotional connection for students, because we know how critical that is to even get to the academic learning. The other two focus areas around our commitment to equitable instruction through PBL and Big Picture, as well as equitable grading and assessments, is being led by kind of a new team this year across the district. All schools were tasked with creating building leadership and racial equity teams if they didn't have them. We had one, we kind of morphed it into this combined team. You'll see the members on this team that were selected by the staff late last spring before we closed for the summer. And that team is really going to be focused on leading our school improvement plan, leading our professional development plan, looking closely at our data and all of our disparities that we have, and putting programs and professional development in place to support the growth and development of all of our students, particularly our students of color and our students with disabilities. During the PD in August for our teachers, the team led PD around universal design for learning, which is a main approach for improving inclusion and access to curriculum and assessment and instruction for all students. They led PD specifically around racial equity, and we talked about the role in social change ecosystems and different roles that we can all play in that. And we spent a few hours diving more deeply into our standards-based grading practices, which we're thrilled are now part of the district and BEA Memorandum of Understanding across all schools. So most schools, or all schools, are shifting in a direction that's much more aligned with what we've been doing for standards-based grading and assessment for the last 9 years. So we had the luxury during our PD time in August to go deeper into our practice and not just into the early phases of what it means to do retakes and to allow students to still submit work late and to assess via the standards and not some other arbitrary indicator. So those components of inclusion with universal design, with our racial equity work, and with our equitable grading are the core PD focuses that our new building leadership teams will be working on. Along with that goes this continued commitment to getting better at doing PBL. And I would say last spring when we were thrown into remote learning overnight, it seems, with just 1 day a week with each class, A lot of our PBL work was really put on hold and halted significantly. We have started this year with the expectation that teachers are doing as much project-based work around essential standards. We're not abandoning PBL by any means, but it's going to look different. So we've been pushing teachers to focus on depth over breadth of what they're doing, to allow a lot of flexibility for students and how they show what they know, to continue to build that culture around student-directed inquiry. And I know September, particularly in English language arts and math, we've had a lot of screeners and assessments and other things we've been asked to do across the district and the state to know what unfinished learning students have around key standards from last spring. So you will be seeing more projects coming out of those courses in the coming weeks now that we have most of those screeners finished. And the third part from the BLT and racial equity team is really looking at different or focus on the instructional model virtually. And there's three key things across the district that teachers are being asked to do for consistency's sake with teams. So first, within the general channel of each class team your student has is where the teachers should be building out all daily, weekly announcements. So any announcement for the class, directions for the class should be posted consistently in the general channel. We are also trying our best to be consistent with using the assignment tab in Teams, where teachers will post and indicate what the work is, and students can click a turn-in button saying that they've completed it. They might actually be completing the work in the OneNote or through turnitin.com, but to manage across all those platforms, we're trying as a district to use that assignment tab feature as an ongoing list of what's coming up and what's due. You'll need to look in Synergy for the actual grades and scores on those assessments, but we're trying that Teams assignment feature, and we're going to see how that works. And the calendar for Teams are where all the meetings should be scheduled. So hopefully they're all in one place and students can readily just open up their calendar in Teams and see what classes they have for today and click the little camera icon to join the meeting. So we're working to get consistency on those three practices with Teams. So what's important as a family to know, follow the calendar in Teams. And if something, if a class during that synchronous time is not getting posted in Teams on the calendar, please reach out to the teacher or to us and let us know so we can improve our consistency on that. Same with the assignments. Again, they should get posted in there so you can see them all in one place. And the announcements are in the general channel. I think beginning last Sunday, because I received one as a parent for my 5th grader, Teams will generate an automatic weekly digest email that should give an update of those assignments. I believe that was launched district-wide this weekend for everyone. So that'll be part of my survey that I push out today to get feedback. Did you get that? Was it informative? Are there ways that we can tweak that as a school or a district? And again, Synergy Parent View is where you'll find the grades and attendance. So those are the core features that hopefully are helpful of where to look as parents for all of those except Parent View and the digest email. You'll have to look in your students' teams to see that currently. I'd like to share we have a few new staff with us this year. We have 6 new teachers. Many are part-time with us. We've welcomed Taylor and Madeline and Cheryl to our middle school. Dustin and Karen are joining us in the high school. Liz is also in the middle school as science teacher. I don't have a picture of her yet. She was with us last year as a student teacher with Bailey. And this year she's returning to pick up one class of middle school science. So Liz, Taylor, Madeline, and Cheryl are new faces in the middle school that I hope you're able to meet in person at some point this year. And Dustin and Karen have joined us as high school advisors. Corinne is a new social worker who's joined our team as well, and I don't yet have a picture of her. But as soon as we get it, we'll be putting it on our website with all our staff pictures and bios. Calendar of what's coming up. This week, we're finishing up those screeners for English Language Arts and Math from 6th through 9th grade. So it's the STAR assessment being used district-wide for a reading screener, and Alex is being used district-wide as a math screener. Those will help us determine students that need additional support with any of the unfinished priority standards from last year. We want to make sure they don't have any gaps moving forward. So we'll be putting together some intervention and support plans for all those students and sharing that with families, of course. So over the next couple of weeks, you should be getting more information from your students' English language arts or their math teachers if they're in need of that additional support, 6th through 9th grade. This week and into next week, the grade level harassment, intimidation, and bullying lessons will be happening in each of the advisory classes. Students will learn how to report incidents of harassment, intimidation, and bullying with the online system or directly to their teachers or a staff member. They'll learn about the language and the district policies about HIB and ways to really get support and provide support to their friends and peers if needed. Wednesday is our next round of book deployment. Sorry, that should say 2 to 5 p.m. here at the school. I'll be pushing out a reminder email today with that. And also tonight, Melinda is offering a college info night about four-year colleges for our seniors. And we'll continue to do other sort of college prep information nights for other grade levels as the fall continues.
Tomorrow night, not tonight.
Oh, sorry, tomorrow night. That's right,
Yep.
The 23rd. I'm sorry, 23rd. I'm getting ahead of myself. Thank you, Jamie. And the 30th, we're going to do virtual curriculum night. It's going to start at 6 p.m. live with counselors, admin, Tony and Leslie to talk about tech, and Godfrey to talk about our virtual internship program. And then all the teachers are making pre-recorded videos of the information they would typically present that will be available that night or any night thereafter for you to watch asynchronously. And then they'll be putting out surveys and outreach to be responsive to any questions that you may have after those presentations. Early October, we'll do that SEL screener that I mentioned through advisory. That's a panorama screener. It's a company our district has worked with for a few years for some different surveys. October 9th is a non-student day. Staff are in professional development that day, but students aren't at school. A month later, by November 9th, we're already at the end of first quarter, and November 11th is Veterans Day. So Matt, I'm going to kick it over to you just to give an update on clubs and Club Jubilee.
Got it. Just quickly, I'm Matt Stokes. I have the privilege of serving alongside Bethany as our assistant principal. And thanks for taking the time to jump in this afternoon a little bit more about clubs. So we know as the importance of community and how difficult it can be right now for our students to feel a part of one. And so we want to acknowledge a little bit of what Hillary was mentioning, that through some of these closures and the shift to technology, that there are some pretty powerful ways. If you're anything like me, I've connected more with friends and family around the country through this time than I had prior. And so we really want to make sure clubs happen in a virtual sense throughout the year. And we know that even if we pivot to hybrid in some capacity, we'll have students who are here or not here, and we want to make sure that our big community is together. So teachers are running different clubs, and I will begin with this idea that clubs are, as our ASB Constitution requires, are founded by students and student interest. We know that that's a little bit of there's a barrier to entry there, as it requires more than one student, and they have to select who would be kind of the designated member to lead that community foundation process. That's difficult to do. So our teachers have jumped in to say, we're here, and in the past I've ran this club, or in the future I want to run this club, and then we're partnering with some students to get those clubs off the ground. So we do have 2 new clubs. We have a GSA, kind of formerly known as the Gay Straight Alliance. I think some of that nomenclature has changed, as well as a coding club run by Brooke. So some returning clubs will be our newspaper and our high school SOAR club, students organizing against racism. Middle school SOAR club, we'll determine what yearbook looks like. We've had a green team in the past we want to continue. Prom club in the past, we'll determine what that looks like. And we've had a skills club in the past that we know students have some interest in. So part of the job is to connect students with advisors who are willing to lead those clubs. Other times it's advisors who want to lead clubs, and then we'll connect with students. We're determining a little bit if we have a kind of a role play game club run by Liz, and Rebecca's looking to see how she can potentially fit in a high school drama. Club Jubilee in the past has helped students participate in sports, from cross country to flag football. Naturally, those are not happening, but our Jubilee site coach, Jaka, is running 3 different clubs, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday: a chess club, a baking club, and a trivia club, all run through teams. And so these clubs are starting kind of now as we speak to formalize. So your students, and as I have kind of more clubs organized, I'll communicate with families at large around what clubs have kind of been founded during this time, how to connect your student there, when they're happening, and who's the advisor and the teacher that's leading that. We'll also do our best to post these on the website and the link, so there's easy access. I don't think of anything else. Bethany, am I missing anything about clubs? I do know that I'm missing a math club. So math club was not a part of this when I launched it with the PMU, but I heard from Charmy that they're running a middle school math club again. I will acknowledge that these clubs will almost always happen after school. We do have, if you've looked at that schedule in great detail, have an 8th period designation. In October, the district has given us the green light to use that time for some clubs. So we acknowledge that some of these clubs may happen at the same time throughout the day, but our advisors are working to make sure that they are founding these clubs at times when there's the least overlap with other things happening. So students are more than welcome to join multiple clubs as it fits within their schedule. So reach out to me if there's anything you think your student needs. We appreciate your partnership on this.
Thank you, Matt. All right, Jamie.
Yay. Bethany asked me to talk a little bit about supporting your middle school students. I think this is going to apply to all students since we have high school families as well. And the first thing I have on here is to celebrate their strengths daily. I don't know about you, but if you think of a time where someone you care about, a friend, a partner, family member, looks over at you and says, thanks so much for just being awesome, and I care about you so much. Has there ever been a time where you're like, thanks, I didn't really need you to say that, I'm fine? Not so much for me. So I'm going to say that whenever I hear a message like that, it's just wonderful. And I think with all of the changes and the loss that we have had, loss to our daily routine, loss to our expectations around how we see our family, how we see our friends, that reminding each other how much we care about them, and reminding our students, wow, this is so hard. And you got on your laptop today. Thank you, because I just really appreciate that. I have a note here to mention that the love languages, if you're familiar with that, it's different ways people communicate they care about each other and feel cared for. So, for example, words is one of the languages, and I'm a words person, so words come easy to me, and that's one way I enjoy showing my kids, my loved ones, that I care about them. I can just say it easily. For some people, words are not going to happen. And that's fine. There's other ways to show people that we love them. So for kids, especially middle school, high school, my kids are 12. I'm getting a lot of eye rolls. I'm getting a lot of attitude and just angst. And they were very, very sweet last year. So I'm not sure what's happening. I'm getting some sweetness still. It's just interspersed with this angst. And it's very clear that that's puberty and that's healthy and wonderful. And I remind myself, oh, they're the ones in discomfort and pain because it's an angst time of development. So how can I connect with them in ways that they're going to appreciate and that they're going to feel I am with them? So I kind of lost my own train of thought here. If the words aren't your style of communicating you care, then sometimes a back rub or holding your kid's hand for a few minutes while you're sitting on the couch. I'm going to say a foot rub after a shower. Those are just different tips for connecting with your kids and appreciating them. So that's always going to be my, how can we support or support our kids, and all of that does connect to academically. The more full their cup is with love from home, the more energy they have to then put toward their academics. My second bullet, be transparent with your child and agree that this is hard. So when I've been spread thin and sometimes my days are not going how I want. And so my kids are seeing a lot of my emotions and I'm just telling them, this is hard. This is not normal. I've never lived through a pandemic before. We're just having to make a lot of changes. So validating that you're feeling vulnerable or spread thin or tired or frustrated or sad. I'm worried about my parents. I'm worried about my grandparents. I'm worried about my sister. When am I going to see them again? Okay, let's table those thoughts because that's exhausting and that's why I'm tired. And just being transparent with your kids about that helps validate whatever they're feeling, that they can share that with you and that it's okay to have all of those feelings because they're real. Not comfortable, but real. The next bullet, focus on supporting the family, finding a balance between energy toward learning and finding joy during COVID. I just want to bring that up because school is so important and engaging with their peers is so important, but also so is your life, and our lives look so different now. That our normal sources of joy, soccer practice, hanging out with friends, dinners together with friends and family, those things aren't happening. So what other things as a family can we do to find joy? And that's another add to why we're tired right now. But it's so important to do so that when you say it's time for you to study, remember we are going to have fun later. That's important too. But I do need you to get your studies done now so you have that balanced message. My fourth bullet, listen, listen, listen. And I'm a big talker. So this is a reminder I have for myself. And then without trying to solve things, teenagers especially love to be independent and to think they know more than everyone. And part of being in partnership with them and supporting them is letting them have a little bit of room to figure out what that looks like. And the more we can keep our mouths shut and listen and nod and agree, oh, that does really sound hard. Oh, that is really frustrating. Yeah, I don't understand what that teacher meant either. And then we kind of just sit with it. We're going to build that connection and we're going to let our children, teens, find resilience and problem solving within themselves to go forward. And the last one, logistics, schedule, the desk, the table, who's going to let the dog out. those types of things, hopefully you're figuring out. I happen to use a leaf from a coffee or a
Is now
table.
exiting.
My dining room table had a leaf in it, so I took off the keyboard from our keyboard stand and I put the leaf on the table to make a table for my daughter to do school so she could have her own space. And those of us fortunate with room in our homes to do that, that's really tricky. But hopefully your child does have a space to do their work and a routine. When is homework time? So you don't have to constantly say, did you do your homework? I really encourage parents not to ask that question. Everyone has homework every day. They're going to say they don't, because all kids lie at this age at some point or another. They don't mean to be lying. They just thought they did it already. But if we say school time is here during Mondays from, I'm looking at the schedule, if you don't have a teacher meeting from 12:30 to 1:30, then that's your homework time. So I'm not going to ask you if you've done your homework. I'm going to expect that you did your academic time during that time, or you pick a time that works for your family. But that, hopefully that structure will provide time for your child to do the homework so that you don't have to ask later. So those are a few tips from me. I have a new, I'm trying booking so people can connect with me. It's on my signature page and I'll work on getting it on our website so that if you want to meet with me to talk out any of these things I've mentioned or anything middle school, puberty, dating, friendships, COVID, academics, homework, all that stuff I'd love to talk about. So feel free to connect with me and love to meet you.
Thank you, Jamie. Anyone from PTSA, any updates before we just open up to questions and have a discussion for those who want? And it's okay if PTSA doesn't have anything to report. I just wanted to provide a minute.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Martin Pierce. I'm sorry if you hear learning in the background, but I'm sharing my son's work table today and he's in class. And I'm not putting my camera on right now because I have terrible COVID hair, so apologies, but trust me, you're going to be grateful. I have nothing planned to say. I just wanted to thank everyone for showing up today. I loved everything that I've heard so far, and a lot of the things that Jamie was sharing for middle school kids also applies to high school kids, I must say. A lot of those techniques and theories that she has shared has worked really well in our home, so I would encourage you to listen to what she has shared and try to put some of those things into practice. As far as PTSA is concerned, this is my first year being a co-president with Hope Schoenbacher. And we're in the throes of adjusting to the wonderful world that we all currently live in. Things obviously are very different as they were from years in the past. And while some may think that that is a challenge, but we're looking at it as an opportunity to pivot some of the ways that we have done things in the past and how we can address the various needs and desires for both teachers, staff, and students moving forward. So one of the great things about this school is in its name, which is looking at the big picture, which is what we're doing. And we look forward to having everyone's support, whichever way that may or may not look moving forward, to give our teachers, our staff, and our students the best year possible under these circumstances. And I have good faith and positivity that it's going to be a banner year in many new ways.